So, to everyone, thank you so much for joining today. I think that's going to be a very interesting 40 minutes approximately webinar. Introducing a little bit myself. Probably most of people here know me. If not, that's completely fine because we have the first slide to help you out. So this is Hansen. I'm a senior account executive here in LearnWorlds, and I love providing solutions to our clients, solving problems, serving their needs, and of course, it couldn't miss. I love Zapier. I love Zaps. I love to create Zaps for my daily routine here working in LearnWorlds, suggesting to friends, and of course, suggesting to you guys, solving problems, creating ideas, enhancing LearnWorlds functionalities, and saving time from your daily tasks and routine. We're gonna be discussing a lot of interesting stuff today. Of course, you know what LearnWorlds is, but we should have a second slide, right? So you already know that you already are probably into the e-commerce course economy. You're selling your courses or you're starting right now. You probably already have successful academies or you are under development, of course. And you already know that with LearnWorlds, you are able to add your beautiful content inside the fantastic website and be able to sell it to your audience and help them actually be more educated, actually help them transfer your knowledge to their heads and make them better. And of course, grow revenues, right? So within the next 40 minutes, we're going to be discussing a lot of beautiful things about Zapier, why it's important, how it works, what is Zapier probably for people that they don't know, how you are going to be develop your own strategy in order to utilize Zapier, right? There needs to be a reason always to use Zapier, but of course, if you think that you don't have any reason, we're going to find reasons today. And of course, we're going to be seeing a couple of examples that we think they're very important. And at the same time, I will try to develop your perspective on how to create the mindset, have the mindset, gain the mindset on how to solve your own problems by using Zapier, right? I strongly advise you right now to use the Q&A function of Zoom and ask anything you have in your mind with regards to Zapier. A Zap that you tried to do and you never managed, a problem that you tried to solve with Zapier and you don't know how to do, or maybe you can share a problem, an operational problem, a problem related to tasks. Or when I say problem, guys, I'm not talking about a disaster, right? I'm talking about something, an operation, a task, a functionality that probably you think that needs to be improved. So please go ahead. I repeat, please don't use for this one the chat, use the Q&A functionality. So we will be able here with Renata and Sarah to track your answers, try to answer you immediately. And of course, a couple of questions, I'll be able to answer them live right here as we progress and move on into the presentation. So of course, I strongly advise you to do that now, but you can do it while we move into the presentation. Zapier for e-learning, as we said. So in a fast way, let's say, what is Zapier? Zapier is a fantastic tool. You always see my smile when I talk about Zapier. It's completely real, right? Zapier is a tool where you're able to connect your apps, automate flows, automate tasks, and in general, save time. So we will see together how we are going to be doing this, what are the reasons, and what problems you are able to solve. So we just said that in a very brief way that Zapier is a tool that you connect apps. That sounds a little bit too general, right? So if we go a little bit more in detail, we would say that Zapier consists of two parts, a trigger and an action. We can call it like if something happens, then do something. So the app you want to use, the software, the tool you want to use, obviously needs to have a profile inside Zapier, and that's 99, let's say 95% of the cases, tech companies have a Zap. So this is LearnWorlds as well. Maybe we're a little bit different because our Zap is very deep and fantastic and will help you solve a lot of different problems. So a very simple example here. Actually, let me go a little bit back because I love this fantastic diagram. A typical example would be that if a user in LearnWorlds enters, like if you have a new user, then do something. This do something could be anything, right? It could be anything you can find that you could do with a tool that has a Zap. So for example, it could be add me a task in Asana. It could be send him a custom email, even though you should probably have utilized our native integrations with our native email marketing tools. Probably there's a tool that we don't have a native integration. Zapier is always a solution, and you're going to be doing this in that way. Or probably we can discuss even a more general example before we go deeper. It would be something easier. For example, when you get a new lead, then just type this record into a Google Sheet. That's very common. And as you explore what Zapier offers, what are the companies that have a Zap profile, what are the Zaps available, let's say in short way, you will be generating more and more ideas. So in general, we could categorize Zaps in a lot of different ways, but one of the most important ways is what you see here on my screen. So you can generate the Zap in order to gain knowledge, right? In order to understand what's happening, let's say in general. So if something happens anywhere, but let's start focusing slowly in LearnWorlds into your LearnWorlds account. So if something happens inside LearnWorlds, then know it. That's too general, right? What means to know it? Maybe have a task. As I said before, you can use it, you see it here as a second pillar, as a second super basic category to track, right? And yet again is the example with Google Sheets. So when someone just been certified through your LearnWorlds account, he just generated his own certificate, then probably add this guy, add this record of the guy, the name and the email and much more. You will see it in a while into your CRM or into your HR system, or my favorite, it's simple, but it's very, very like clean and easy to understand in a Google Sheet. And of course, the third one is with regards to communication. So when something happens, then talk to someone. More precisely, when a new lead, then send him an email. When someone has finished a part of the course, then send him again an email, send him an SMS, a lot of different options. Let's go a little bit deeper slowly. This is, let's say, another way to categorize the reasons of you. You could be using Zapier. Probably you know that already, but it's good to refresh a little bit and categorize things because that helps you, as I said in the beginning, to redefine a little bit your purpose, the purpose you're here, and generate more ideas. So you can use a Zapier to manage your leads for course enrollments, for user management in general, for sales tracking and user experience improvement. So you're probably already wondering, like, Antonis, most of the things I see here are already into your platform. I'm a advocate of your product. I know the dashboard as the back of my hand, and more or less I can do things like this. Yes, that's absolutely true, but you can always enhance, right? Enhance the functionalities that your dashboard offers. I'm sure you've been into a situation, let's be realistic, right? This is why we do the webinars. I know that LearnWorlds is the best tool in the market. It's a fantastic tool, but probably while you've been successful selling your courses and growing your audience, you found something very small and you said, like, I wish this small thing was there as well. Next time, try to search inside Zapier. Probably is inside there. So our fantastic new Zapier, right? We're talking about 15 triggers, 6 actions, 150, even more data points, search capabilities, and multiple action zaps. I will focus a little bit more here into the data points, and data points are actually the extra elements that Zapier captures after a trigger and to be used for an action. For example, when a new user, then do that. But what do we capture to the when new user? Only the name or the email? Actually, it's going to be around 20 to 30 different things that you've already seen as pre-made tags inside your dashboard and much more. We'll see it in a while, right? Again, a reminder of this fantastic and simple diagram. If something happens, then do that. Trigger and action. Don't forget that this is going to develop your perspective in order to start understanding how to search inside Zapier to enhance your user flows, right? And much more. Now, a little bit deeper, talking about the trigger, you see that clearly. Actually, we have already discussed this a little bit. So once you've set up a Zapier will monitor when the event will take place. It's the trigger. It's the when something happens, which is the first part of the Zap, and that could be LearnWorlds, that could be anything. We're focusing more today in the triggers of LearnWorlds, but you know that it could be anything. These are the categories of the triggers that we have. You will see it in the presentation, which, by the way, I forgot to mention that. Sorry about that, Sarah. You are going to be having this presentation sometime tomorrow, and you will be able to have enough time. But in any case, I strongly advise you, while I talk, to read this list in order not to read that for you. And please go ahead and start a free trial account in Zapier, which has a free trial a freemium model in any way, and you can just start, create a new Zap, choose LearnWorlds, and see that almost in action, right? All of those beautiful triggers. Focus a little bit in the 8th. That all the others are like, you need to take them for granted, guys. We care a lot about you. But a couple of things here are a little bit more sophisticated and very well organized, like the 8th, the tagged add, tagged removed, payment failed, and much more, right? And that's the action. A little bit deeper. What's going to happen when the if is captured, when the if scenario happens, right? It's the then side, the then, right? It's the action. So the action could be any single tool you have in mind. I think that Zapier has approximately 4,000 different apps inside there. Like you can imagine directly at least 20 that they're the most popular tech companies. You're using them into your daily routines, and of course that going to help you do basic and of course more sophisticated flows, right? The action, what's going to happen. Don't forget, we will see that in action in a while. The trigger and the action both can be LearnWorlds. That's very important. The action is available, of course, to create a user, to enroll a user in the product, unenroll, add tags, remove tag from a user, and define the user, which is very important, a little bit more technical. So here, for the third time, my favorite workflow. You see that with this small GIF, a little bit in action, how to create a Zap. Most of you, I'm sure you've at least tried to create one. And now I think that this is one of the most important parts of this presentation. Why? As I said before, you can consider using Zapier, let's say more or less in two ways, an active and the passive. I think that most of you have used more in a passive way, which I think it's more normal to happen first. So when you have a problem, you probably said, all right, so let's see if this tool has a Zap. Let's say, oh, they have a Zap. Now let's see the triggers or the actions of the Zap. So to see if my dream workflow, user flow will be able to happen. Of course, you know that Zapier is going more and more popular and they're becoming bigger and bigger. So, pardon, you have probably already developed this perspective. So this is the passive one, and the active is what we're going to be discussing right now. Find the reasons. We have them here in the presentation, potential reasons, of course, and go and search. Identify your problems. Again, I'm not talking about disasters, as I said before. Identify the small problems, and let's go see together how we are going to solve them. What would you like to start automating? That's the most common cases. It's about marketing and sales, user management, accounting, invoicing, reporting in general, learners experience, and data synchronization. That's with regards to reporting as well. 3 steps. Make a list of the tasks that you perform and you perform repeatedly, and probably, I mean, you understand that in terms of anyway, project management optimization, if you do the same tasks every single day, probably you need to automate it. Shortlist those tasks that involve loads of copy pasting, duplicating, information transfer, copy pasting lists in Excel files, sending attaching the list in an email and sending this to your partner, your boss, your friend, or anyone is involved in the workflow. And of course, prioritize and pick the most important and time-consuming tasks. We always start from this one, of course. Now, for everyone, a little bit focusing more on people that they haven't had the chance to gain experience with Zapier, but of course for everyone as well. I'm going to be doing a Zap a little bit fast, so we can understand the structure and of course start developing the perspective. You see that that's probably one of my favorite phrases. I'll say that a lot of times. So here we are inside Zapier, and I have just pressed to create a Zap, create a new Zap, and let's invent right now. That's not prepare, guys. Let's invent an example, right? What could be? So let's say I don't even know if LearnWorlds exists inside here. What I would do, I search for the trigger. You remember, trigger is the if then. It's the if. LearnWorlds latest because it's fresh. So I know that LearnWorlds has a trigger Zap and a profile in Zapier. Perfect. First step accomplished. Let's see what I'm going to do next. Trigger events. That's very important. You remember this approximately 15 trigger events we said we have? Guys, this is the most important part because sometimes a bad Zapier could be a little bit frustrating because it exists, but you cannot do what you want to do. So we've built our Zapier based upon thousands of users requests, existing clients, potential clients, people that they have been talking with support. I'm sure most of you have been talking with our fantastic support team so far and with sales. So I do believe that this app is made for your needs. So we see here the triggers. Let's do something very fast. I would say that I want to capture when I have a new user. Just per LearnWorlds definition, to remind you, a new user is when someone is signing up. I'm not talking about a lead. I will press continue. Of course, this will try to connect. It will ask me to connect my own account. I have a couple of accounts here. And here's my professional email, you see, and I just connected, right? It gives you the option to test the trigger. I'm gonna skip it for now. We are not gonna be running this app today, but I think this is something that you would definitely need to do it on your own in order to practice. So let's choose the action, a simple one. I have it here, Google Sheets. Let's say that I want to capture the guy, right? So what is going to happen? A new user with the information that I ask in the sign up form, and I want to make a row, a column, actually a row, it's a better term, in order to capture them. So I choose it, create a spreadsheet row. I mean, you expected that. It has a lot of different options, but let's say we need to create a spreadsheet row. It will understand that. I will press continue, and of course, it will ask me to choose the right file. I have it here, but in order to save time, let's not run it. Of course, it will understand in 2 seconds. It will connect in 2 seconds with my Google account. It will understand. I will choose the file. I will choose the right names for the columns and the rows, and it's going to be great. So this is the average flow, the average way in order to create a Zap. I repeat, with a trigger and with an action. That was fast. Let's go a little bit deeper. Of course, it's very good to start with the most important Zaps, test them, don't create 20 Zaps at the same time. It's about I'm probably for people that they enter in Zapier for the first time, they are getting over happy, overexcited. So don't do everything at the same time, go step by step and start fixing your most important problems, and then you will start enhancing functionalities. And then we need to move in a couple of examples, guys. These are examples from real life, meaning that we have heard these questions in the past, but every single example that you're going to be seeing here, it's a nice idea, of course, but it's also, I say that for the fourth time, to develop your perspective, because of course there's an average of tools stack that our client is using, but that depends a lot on the way you think, how tech savvy you guys are, what are the tools that you had experience that you never wanted to replace. So these are great examples, but consider them as templates as well. So we start with the marketing and sales, and the first one is what you see here. I want to collect leads from Facebook into my school. So what would be the trigger? I press FAC. Of course, there's going to be Facebook first. I choose the new lead. I save it, maybe test the trigger. Then for LearnWorlds, I go to the action and I say create a new user. It could be create a new lead as well, right? Super easy and understandable. I have it here, I want to move it. So when this happens there, then do it there. A very nice example, the second one, to verify an email address. In case you don't know it, Never Bounces an email is a tool where you give emails and the tool answers if the email exists, how professional it is, and if it's a real email and not a spammy email or an email with a typo that you will never be able to work with. So when a new lead in LearnWorlds, you want to clean up your lists and you don't want to add everyone into your MailChimp, let's say, account. So what is the action? Never bounce. I search, they get us up with an action, verify mail address. Moving a little bit faster, add certain users to a CRM campaign. That's completely understandable. So that could be executed in a couple of different ways, I would say. Here we have it with a tag, because it depends on how you onboard your users. Let's say that we're talking about an expensive product, you add your users manually. They need to be tracked in another system as well. Maybe it's B2B clients. You remember probably you've been into the previous webinar of how to sell B2B. So the trigger is the tag that you probably add manually, right? So when a user has this following tag, let's say tag big client, then add him to Salesforce. Of course, Salesforce has a very good Zap inside Zapier. It could be added not only in Salesforce, but in HubSpot, Pipedrive, or any other CRM you're using. Collect leads from a webinar, a very, very nice, very common, I would say. Of course, you're doing your webinars, let's say with GoToWebinar, and you have a registration page. What do you expect me to say here? When a new user, a new registrant in GoToWebinar, then create him on LearnWorlds. I think you start thinking about the use cases behind them and how many ideas you can have, similar ideas that they serve a similar purpose. Talking here about user management, let's go a little bit faster. You want to collect all existing users from a Google Sheet or add them there. When new user, actually we discussed this before, when a new user in LearnWorlds, then add him in Google Sheet. You want to enroll a new employee in an onboarding course. You start the flow from the HR. Let's say you have this flow. Let's say Bamboo HR, Intel HR. When a new profile is created there, a new person, a new account, depends on how the tool calls this person entity. You know what I mean for the tech-savvy people. Then enroll a user directly into a product now. That's very important. Keep in mind here, it depends. Sometimes you need to add the user and then enroll him into the product. Again, you understand that it depends on the user flow. And of course, that's a very nice flow here, a very, very nice flow. It's more a real-time flow. You have two databases. You want to maintain the same information for the same user in both databases. So this is why we have a trigger inside LearnWorlds, which is called user updated. So when a user updated, so something is changing, they are changing the telephone or their email or something. But of course, you don't want to have a mess into your CRM like HubSpot. So then please HubSpot update user with 3 clicks. You understand how much time you save. Obviously, accounting and invoicing, you know that LearnWorlds has its own invoicing system. Probably you want to have, in case you want to have a more manual flow and you want to have another invoicing, or you want to have an extra accounting tool, which is completely different. Depends a lot in your country, how good and tech-friendly, let's say, your accounting tool is and the invoicing tool is. But as you understand here, we're talking about situations where when an invoice is generated, you enroll a user into the product and you want to create a custom invoice from Xero and so on and so forth. That's a very nice as well, related one. Of course, a payment fails. We have the trigger and you want to send and SMS. Zapier is so good that it has its own zaps in order to enhance functionalities. Usually they are very cheap as well. Something I would like to repeat, it's the second time I think that I mentioned that, when the payment fails, it's a notification that we'll already have into our dashboard. It's an email. This is what I said before. And this is why sometimes you would like to enhance, you would need to enhance the functionality of LearnWorlds, because maybe this email that we have, that you can customize it, of course, you are able to edit HTML and make it as a beautiful email, but sometimes it's not enough, so you can have something more. So this is quite similar on what we discussed so far, and I'm gonna go into the next slide, talking about the learner's experience. You can see them, right? When a course is completed, please issue a badge. Think about it. If you wanna use another tool, which is probably a supplementary product with LearnWorlds, you always need to check in Zapier, always. You can always ask salespeople, you can always ask the fantastic support team of LearnWorlds, but please do me a favor and go and ask and check and search inside Zapier. You will see things that you didn't expect, and you will be able to integrate your tools with a couple of clicks. So you want to have a second badging system, LearnWorlds has one, you know that. You want to have Credly, you can do it, right? Again, that's a fantastic idea here. When you want to, well, let's say you have a new certificate and you user certified, directly send it into Printful and create an order. Guys, these things are not only solving problems, but even generating ideas to enhance your flow with very low fees, to be more professional, to be more fancy, to be more engaging, be closer to your users. I think we are being a little bit pressed from time, so I will let you see the next three as examples. When you receive the presentation, of course, we can discuss them in questions, and this is where I want to focus. So I will go a little bit next and talk about three things that they're a little bit more advanced, a little bit more sophisticated, but I do think that they're going to help you a lot. All right. So these are functionalities that they're coming from Zapier, but LearnWorlds, of course, invested there in order to give you options that you never believed that exist. So multiple actions. Multiple actions is when you have a trigger and you have multiple actions in a linear way, right? So when a new user, then add him in a Google Sheet row, and then add for me a task in Asana because for some reason I want to contact him, or any other example you can have in mind. Search capabilities. So you want to verify that a user exists into LearnWorlds, and if exists there, you want to do something. We will see it in a while. And of course, we're talking about the platform enhancement. As I said that before, it's one of my favorites, where a small detail that you cannot do from your dashboard in LearnWorlds, you sometimes are able to do it by using a trigger and an action from combining both LearnWorld zaps, right? A little bit deeper in the examples here, let's say that you want to add a user in multiple databases, as I said before. So when a new user, then please go and do the action, add the user in a Google Sheet row. Then you press again the cross button and please add this user into Salesforce as well. Simple, but important, right? It's powerful. The second one, let's say that you want to qualify a user for a premium upsell, right? Now it starts being a little bit more complicated. You choose the trigger when a course completed or when a user is tagged. That depends on how you have structured or how you want to define who are your potential premium users. Okay, think about it. Maybe you can search them one by one. Or maybe if someone completes your course 5, which you know your industry, you know how hard this course is, probably this guy is an expert. And probably you need to sell to this guy something more premium and maybe more expensive. So imagine that you have them now, you know who they are, either you tag them or you activate the when course completed trigger, then you can send them a type form with an email, right? Keep that in mind. And maybe then also update the row based on the answers of the type form with a certain piece of info. It could be Boolean, like yes or no. Yes, he is premium qualified or no. And then fourth action, add to me a task in my CRM to call him. Guys, think about it. You just need to design the flow in your mind and build the right actions. And you automate the flow that you probably, maybe few of you, but it's normal if you didn't even know that exists, right? It's very, very important. I know that now starts being a little bit more complicated. So if you have any questions, again, I strongly advise to continue in the Q&A. Search. That's a general, it's a specific example, but let's generalize it a little bit. So you run a campaign for a webinar. That's a scenario that I made for you, trying to make it a little bit more understandable, right? You run a campaign for a webinar from your LearnWorlds account, right? Because you probably already use Zoom webinars through LearnWorlds. But at the same time, you're advertising this from your existing website. I'm sure a certain percentage of you're doing this because you had an existing website, you didn't want to replace with your LearnWorlds account, you have them attached working in parallel. Maybe you had the list, you had an old sales tool, lead generation, toolkit, you couldn't manage everything. So you advertise from both sides. You end up doing this. It's not necessarily bad, right? But you're focusing a lot your efforts right now, let's say, still a hypothesis, into having more users into the LearnWorlds account. What would you do? Zoom webinars trigger into the Zap. Trigger from Zoom webinar, a new user. Then in the action, in the search function, you search if the user exists in your LearnWorlds account. I repeat, you search if your LearnWorlds, if this user exists in the LearnWorlds account. And if not, you push him in. Do you understand the importance? The importance is that you transferred without the user in the correct database without doing any mistake. Please, your questions. I know it's getting harder. So the final ones, when we have the third category, I told you it's one of my favorites, when you have a trigger and an action from LearnWorlds. It's the last part. And I have a couple of examples. Use case one, differentiate users per courses for reporting reasons. Extremely simple, extremely valuable, guys. When a user enrolled to product trigger, it's 2 clicks. Then tag the user. And you're probably wondering, Antonis, how many zaps do I need to do it? Maybe do I need to do? I have 5 courses. Should I do 5 zaps? It could be, and to be honest, it's not that hard to do 5 zaps, but it's not. The zap is going to be 1. Why? Let's do this a little bit in action. When new user in LearnWorlds, then LearnWorlds trigger again. What type of action I want? Tag the user. Continue. What tag? It will ask you, of course. So it's going to be asking you. It's asking for my account first. Apologies on that. I connect my account. I press continue. Perfect. I add the email of the user. What email? Here's the most important part. Pay attention. With 1 click, you add the email captured of the previous trigger automatically. What tag? And what tag, Antonis? You said one zap. All of those options are being captured from the previous one. So if I go here and press course, I'm wrong, apologies. It's product written. I failed. I failed for apologies on that. I just failed. The name of the course is captured. The name of the course is captured. Probably I owe you an answer on this one, but it is there, and apologies on that. So the name of the course is captured. It will take it as a tag automatically, and you will know each user has purchased the correct product, and they are going to be tagged. A fast correction here. I think I just found my mistake. which is not the new user, but when user enrolled into a product. That's the correct action, of course. So I expect here I will see the right tag. Let's check that. Product name appeared. Thank you guys for the patience. So it's extremely important. Why do you need that? You know that they are tagged, you export the report, you can filter fast, and you will be able, with a couple of clicks, to see what you want to see. Let's go a little bit deeper. Direct users who canceled a subscription to a secret discount area. That's great. So when someone is canceling a subscription, you know that you have a automated notification, which is customizable again in your dashboard under the settings, which is sending an email. Perfect. More than enough, you would say. All right. Let's go 3 steps back. Probably you know that users can be tagged. Perfect. Probably, and go ahead and search that, you are also able to tag sections of pages, section of landing pages in LearnWorlds. So if you tag a part of a page, a layer or a section, as we say, this section will only be available for the logged in users, of course, to the users that they have this tag. Otherwise, the platform will not visualize, will choose not to visualize this layer at all. What if I tell you that you can, made in advance, prior to the Zap, another layer, you add the subscription catalog, which is the same subscription that you already have been selling in a discounted price, and you tag it canceled. No one will see because no one will have the cancel tag. So check now. When a payment plan canceled, trigger, then tag this user canceled. It's so simple, but do you realize, guys, what is this? Only those guys that cancel the subscription, they are going to be able to see an area which includes a discounted price for the subscription that they just canceled. Of course, you will send them emails. Of course, you will try to bring them back. But of course, more extensive, a bigger user flow will increase your chances to take these revenues back. Now, the last 3 are a little bit more custom. I think it's better to discuss them more in a theoretical level. I will explain you the functionality and the solution of the business case. I will take your question. And when you receive the presentation, when you try to do something similar and you have more questions, you will need to come back to me and discuss it a little bit deeper. Unlock more courses for users that finished a specific course by using tags. Let's say that there is a part of an entire course or a part of a course that is extremely important in terms of difficulty, general importance with regards to knowledge, and also is connected with another course. As you know, in LearnWorlds, there is not any direct way to create a learning path, not within the course, but within different courses, within a course catalog. So imagine the same flow, quite similar to the previous one, a trigger of when a user is completing a course, then tag the user expert, tag the user more courses. You define the name of the tag. They are tagged. You had already pre-made course catalog with the extra course. The guy goes to his home or to any page that you build a central place for the user, and he sees the next course that, or the next courses that you want him to take. I will skip this one and I will go to the last one. These users that preview a free section by using tags, that's, I think, a fancy idea would be nice. Imagine the course page, the course landing page. The guy hasn't purchased, and you know that you're probably already doing that. You have one of the first sections in a free mode. We capture that inside Zapier with one click. So when a free section preview, when a user previews a first section, it's a pre-made trigger inside LearnWorlds. Then tag user. What is the name of the tag? Any name that you want. It could be tag him as fancy or tag him as a free section. And you have already created a free section with the same tag which is saying, for example, something you've just seen the first part of the course, go ahead and purchase, the course is fantastic, or any other trigger which is visual. So the long story short, of course, I went a little bit more in detail, but you understand how many options you have in order to utilize the Zapier when the trigger and the action is LearnWorlds and enhance those functionalities, right? Let's see if we have questions that they have not an answer. Let's try with this one. How can I push the marketing consent information opt-in, opt-out to HubSpot CRM? I really spent a huge effort on that, but I couldn't push that information. It should always be updated when learner changes his, her marketing consent. That's a very nice question, Enes. I think that would be great to be answered from Renata, which is a little bit more technical. I'll make sure to provide the answer because that's a very important topic, which I don't have the answer directly now. Renata, I think you will be taking this. Let's check maybe something more. Yes, so that's a nice question. So we're talking about a case where the course expires and you maybe want to remind them. We're talking about, okay. So if the course expires, we're talking about a situation where the user then is not enrolled anymore. So it could be a Zap where you're saying that when a course expired, right, then a delay. So a delay is an extra functionality that you can have inside Zapier, and then send them a reminder. It could be through an email marketing tool that you want, or directed through Gmail. So the action would be Gmail, and send them a reminder that they need to take maybe the course again. After, it depends on how often your course expires. Now, let's see. That's in a very important topic as well. We're talking about it's the second part of this question, where the course is not expired, and you need to send a notification to remind them that it's not expired, and they need to move on. That's a great example. Thank you, Michelle. It's quite complicated. I think that I do have a solution. I will keep the questions, and what I'm gonna do, because exams like this take some time to be developed, and probably I will not have we will not have enough time today. But what I promise is that I will take all of those beautiful examples. I'll make a presentation, and I will send them over to all registrants in this webinar. So if it's not expired, but the user is not moving on, it's something that we don't capture exactly like this. So it could be a case that you are tagging the users. It's quite complicated. You can tag all the users when they complete the course. That means that the rest are not tagged. Okay, so if the users are not tagged with this particular tag, it means that they haven't completed the course. You can only choose those guys and then send them an email as a reminder. The most interesting part of this request would be, if possible, to send them a specific email capturing and understanding what is the exact spot that they have stopped consuming and moving on to the course. I think the answer is no, Michelle, but I will search, we will search with the team, and let's go a little bit deeper on that, because this question is fantastic. Perfect. Could you explain, and this is a question from Lucy, could you explain the difference between zaps and tasks? In Zapier payment plans, it says how many zaps you can do Zapier per month versus how many tasks per month. That's a very nice question as well. So a zap is separated in action, and trigger and in action. Both are a task. Both are a task. I don't know exactly the pricing of Zapier right now, but both are considered as a task. But when I was using the word task, I was talking about a task that can be added inside a task monitoring system like Asana or like in a CRM. Lucy, please let me know if that helps. Another question, can you create a QuickBook invoice when a user enrolls in a product? My answer is that I don't know, but I can guess, and I will say here in public my guess and the way I think, in order to help you identify on your own. So you said when someone enrolls in the product, perfect. The first part is easy to be done, right? Because we have a ready trigger. So you will say, LearnWorlds trigger, you choose it in the Zap, when a new user enrolls in the product, perfect. What is the next step? You mentioned QuickBook, right? So you will go to the actions, you will search QuickBooks. I guess and bet that QuickBooks has a Zap, so it will be there. Now, maybe we are in a 60 or 70% accomplishment. What is the rest part? The rest part would be to search inside the types of actions that QuickBook offers, if gives the option to create an invoice. Given that QuickBook is an invoice management system, accounting management system, something like this, I assume that they will have. So unless I search, I'm not able to know 100%. So, but this is the way to utilize Zapier. And this is actually the perfect example of you developing the perspective on how to search. Go inside the action, search for QuickBook. I bet QuickBook is there, and search what actions is giving. Let's see a couple of more. Vasiliki, Zaps are not free. Zapier is a freemium. It's better for me to talk about LearnWorlds, not about Zapier in such detail. Zapier has a freemium model, and up to a certain quite big amount of tasks, yes, they are free. But I would Google Zapier pricing. Another one, when to use Zapier with, for example, GetResponse or LearnWorlds email, like course emails, affiliate. That's a fantastic question. With LearnWorlds, you are able to do two different things, let's say, two different categories of things with regards to email communication. The first part is notifications that are automatic and can be designed inside LearnWorlds. So first step, before going into Zapier, go to your settings, open your settings dashboard, check the notifications, and first of all, verify, confirm that if you're using them all, and if you have finished editing all. For example, we have when a subscription is canceled, when the user is changing a password, when a user enrolls to a free course, to a paid course, and so on and so forth, right? That's the first category. The second category is the custom email communication that you want to conduct, to send, for example, a newsletter every Friday. We have 4 native email integrations. The first one is MailChimp. I like MailChimp a lot. So the native integration is very powerful and very deep. And actually, almost everything we capture about the user, you will be able to see it inside your MailChimp dashboard. Now, we finished with the 2 categories. How I answer your question, Anas. If you want necessarily to use a tool which we don't have a native integration with, it's a one-way option that you need to integrate it with Zapier. So this is it. You go step by step. You see what you can do through the platform or with a native integration with LearnWorlds. And the third step, when we don't have a native integration with a tool, of course, you will be needing to use Zapier. And I think I cover most of the questions here. Probably I've skipped you. Sorry for that, guys, but we mentioned, I actually skipped only questions that we actually discussed into the presentation. Summing up, remember that each app is two parts, consists of two parts, and trigger an action. Define your strategy, use both the passive way and the active way. I hope, guys, I tried a lot. I hope, guys, I developed a little bit, I helped you develop a little bit the perspective on how to be more active and maybe proactive on enhancing functionalities or searching fast what you cannot do inside the dashboard to do it with another tool using Zapier. Define your categories, the things that you have the problems, again, not the disasters, in order to be able to enhance them. And of course, with one of the most important reasons to save time. That was it. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I will, as said, check if something is not answered, and I will make an email to send you guys all. Plus, I will include one extra fancy example of Zapier that I didn't analyze today. And that's it. Well, thank you so much for your time. Once again, that was Antonis from LearnWorlds with Renata and Sarah, of course. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon.